Montgomery Clift was an enigmatic actor who rose to fame in the 1940s and 50s and remains a puzzle to this day. In this video, we'll delve into the intriguing and tragic life of Montgomery Clift, a man who lived his life in the shadows, struggling to find his true identity. Facts First presents he died at 45 after living his whole life a lie. Clift's nomadic childhood. Born in Omaha, Nebraska on October 17, 1920, Montgomery Clift's early upbringing was marked by restlessness, as his family moved frequently. He and twin sister Ethel experienced a nomadic childhood with their parents, William and Sonny, as they traveled throughout Europe. Upon returning to New York in the early 30s, however, Clift was determined to become an actor. He began his acting career on stage at age 13. He made his Broadway debut at 15 and spent the following decade in theater before making his debut in 1948 with The Search. Despite numerous movie offers, Clift was hesitant to sign a contract that would dictate his roles. He wanted to take control of his career and select roles based on his taste. This outlook stemmed from his understanding that actors have less control over their work in movies compared to the stage. He was also reluctant because he feared that the contract would include a so-called morality clause that would permit the studio to fire him if they found out he was bisexual. This topic in particular is one that played a very large role in Clift's life. In 1948, Clift also starred with John Wayne in the Western film Red River. Wayne thought of Clift as arrogant, while Clift found Wayne's machismo and that of his friends repulsive. Montgomery was equally unimpressed by Hemingway's bravado, describing him as a self-important bore. Generally speaking, Clift rejected typical notions of masculinity. Throughout his career, his sensitive and vulnerable portrayals of male characters provided a fresh perspective on masculinity in film. He challenged traditional gender norms and offered more complex and authentic representations of men in movies. The accident that changed everything. Throughout his life, Clift seemed to be constantly courting danger, as evidenced by his reckless driving habits and later substance abuse issues. One fateful night in May of 1956, after leaving a party at Elizabeth Taylor's Beverly Hills residence, Clift lost control of his vehicle on a treacherous canyon road and collided with an electrical pole. The Chevrolet Bel Air he was driving was destroyed, but miraculously Clift survived. Kevin McCarthy, Clift's friend and fellow actor, described the horrifying scene in a 2018 interview with Film Talk. Montgomery's face was left unrecognizable, and Liz Taylor, who had rushed to the scene, saved his life by removing his dislodged teeth from his throat before the ambulance arrived. Before the accident, Clift was known for his alluring good looks and captivating charm. After the crash, however, everything changed. Clift's face was unquestionably destroyed. His head was grotesquely swollen, his nose split, his jaw broken in 4 places. His cheekbones fractured, 2 front teeth missing, and his face marred by severe lacerations. Actor and close friend Jack Larson was shocked when he saw Clift, noting that only his eyes retained their former sparkle, though now filled with pain. In 1963, Clift reflected on the traumatic event, attributing his half-asleep state during the crash to a long day of shooting. He went on to say that when he was confronted with his reflection in a mirror, he didn't recognize himself. While filming Raintree County with Taylor and Lee Marvin, Clift spent months in the hospital and underwent extensive reconstructive surgery. For someone as private as Clift, it was agonizing to know that his changed appearance would become a topic of national discussion when Raintree County premiered in December of 1957. Even writer Christopher Isherwood remarked that Clift's expression was ghastly and shattered, with nearly all his good looks gone. Clift's Sexuality. 2 major biographies on Montgomery Clift, written by Robert LaGuardia and Patricia Bosworth, portrayed him as a closeted homosexual, filled with self-hatred. But this depiction was far from accurate. It's known that Clift had relationships with both men and women, including Judy Balaban, the daughter of a former Paramount Pictures president, although whether or not his relationships with women were in fact sexual is a matter of some debate. The 2018 documentary Making Montgomery Clift, which was directed by his nephew Robert and Hilary Demon, attempts to present a more balanced portrayal of the actor, who was comfortable with his sexuality. According to the film, Clift's bisexuality was kept a secret due to the conservative nature of the post-war film industry. But his sexuality wasn't hidden from his family. His mother, Sunny, casually mentioned in a taped phone call that her son's homosexuality began around age 12 or 13. The documentary includes a segment where a journalist questions Clift about his, quote, murky life, to which the actor responded with frustration, asking why he couldn't just be left alone to feel melancholy or sad. His disdain for the press stemmed from their intrusive interest in his personal life and their tendency to fabricate stories. Given this reality, it's not surprising he would try as best as he could to keep his sexuality private. Clift's feuds and enemies. Clift faced hostility from several actors and directors throughout his career. His friendship with Frank Sinatra ended abruptly when a drunken Clift made advances towards a male guest at a party. Despite the incident, Sinatra later attended Clift's funeral in New York. Clift also experienced harsh treatment from directors like Joseph Mankiewicz, who treated him particularly abrasively during the filming of Suddenly Last Summer. Fellow cast member Katharine Hepburn was evidently so appalled by Mankiewicz's behavior, she spat in his face after the final scene was shot. Clift's most dreadful encounter was with John Huston. Following their collaboration on The Misfits, Marilyn Monroe cautioned Clift against ever working with the sadist again. Nevertheless, in 1962, desperate for a significant role, Clift agreed to star as Sigmund Freud in Huston's biopic, Freud, The Secret Passion. Huston allegedly displayed homophobia towards Clift, his hostility stoked after learning that the actor had shared a bed with a male journalist while staying at Huston's Irish country estate, St. Clarence. He ridiculed Clift in front of the cast, mocked his $300,000 fee, and forced him to film numerous takes of challenging scenes, including one where the actor bloodied his hands climbing a rope repeatedly. Huston later attempted to shape the narrative, claiming that working with Clift had been, as he put it, an ordeal. He accused the actor of frequently being drunk and forgetting his lines so frequently they had to tack cue cards all over the set. But Huston subsequently lost a lawsuit against Clift that claimed the actor's behavior impeded the film's production. Clift's vices. Clift's drinking was infamous, though he downplayed it by joking he was no match for the notoriously alcoholic comedian W.C. Fields, of whom he once said, quote, "You got to admire someone able to drink 2 quarts of gin a day." His excessive drinking saddened his friends. While filming I Confess for Hitchcock in 1961, co-star Anne Baxter observed that Clift was sometimes unresponsive due to alcohol. It's worth noting Baxter harbored no ill will towards him. They'd been friends since their teenage stage days. By the time Clift worked with Marilyn Monroe in 1961, when the actress was grappling with her own addiction issues involving drugs and alcohol, he was in terrible shape. Monroe once described Montgomery as the only person she knew who was in worse shape than she was. Clift's death. Clift's health issues were exacerbated by his bad habits, including alcoholism and addiction to painkillers. They provided temporary relief but took a toll on his overall health. Furthermore, his lifestyle and personal struggles likely had a significant impact on his mental well-being. His final cinematic endeavor was The Defector, filmed in Germany. The actor insisted on executing his own stunts, including swimming in the frigid Elbe in March. Sadly, his life came to an end in the early hours of July 23, 1966. His last words were to his companion and nurse, Lorenzo James, who noticed The Misfits was airing on television and asked Clift if he'd like to watch it with him. "Absolutely not," was the response. Clift opted for a bath instead, during which he suffered a fatal heart attack. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of Montgomery Clift? Let us know in the comments section below.